Okay, ready for my rant for the week?
You rant a lot.
I do rant a lot. I'm very opinionated. I'm just learning. I think my rants have become just things that are currently happening or things that I'm interested in.
What are you, 25?
25, yeah. So
I'm already coming. See, you don't see it yet. I think you may see the glimmers of it. But we all make fun of the get off my lawn guy.
Yeah.
I'm 49. I'm like,
get off my lawn.
He's got reasonable. He takes care of his lawn. He likes working in his yard. He likes having a good yard. Why walk on his yard? I'm saying reasonable.
You don't take care of your yard.
I don't ever go to the front of my house. I can't grow grass in the
Your
front of my house.
backyard's getting phenomenal.
It's lit.
Your backyard is lit. Got a big fence, got a pergola, got a smoker, some TV out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the whole
The front of
works.
my house looks like shit.
The front of your house looks bad.
HOA's never said a thing to me.
But yeah, I mean, that's why I do my rant. You know what I mean? Like, I find something interesting. And this, we got some big stuff that's happening in the country right now.
All right, let's do it.
The voting rights and the filibuster.
Oh, God.
Here's something from
I may have something to say about this.
Okay, here's some stuff about here's from an article that The Guardian released.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
we're going to start with an article from The Guardian. Joe Biden on Tuesday gave his most forceful endorsement to date of challenging the Senate filibuster rule in order to pass sweeping voting rights legislation, saying he was tired of being quiet in a high-profile speech in Georgia. In one of the most significant speeches of his presidency so far, Biden drew a connection in history between the civil rights movement, the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by extremist supporters of Donald Trump, and the unprecedented efforts in many states to restrict voting rights over the last year. He said America was at a moment to choose democracy over autocracy. The article goes on to say, Biden did not mention Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema, the staunchest defenders of the filibuster from the Democratic side of the chamber, by name in his speech. But he made it clear his patience has run out after months of negotiation with the White House and Capitol Hill within the caucus to try to find ways forward on voting rights. He said, I've been having these quiet conversations with members of Congress for the last 2 months. I'm tired of being quiet, he said, his voice raising. He also appealed to senators' legacies, saying that those who did not stand up at this moment for voting rights would be remembered on the side of some of the most infamous racist political leaders in U.S. history, including those supporting segregation or the Confederacy, as opposed to civil rights proponents. The new voting rights bill would allow the federal government the ability to control the way in which states run the elections, force states that the federal government thinks have a history of voting rights violations to pre-clear any new changes in voting rights laws.
The red states?
Federally mandating the allowance of mail-in voting, allow no voter ID laws, and also allow same-day registration. So here's my opinion on everything I just said. The Constitution states the rules of the election for the states are up to the states. Yes. This is because there are only 4 mentions of voting rights in the Constitution. The rest gets kicked to the states because of the 10th Amendment, which says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or the people. So anything not in the Constitution
goes to the states.
10th Amendment is the states' right amendment, right?
Abortion.
Right, all of those things. Anything that's not outlined in the Constitution goes to the states. So that's clearly written in the Constitution. Georgia, Texas, and Arkansas would be forced to ask Joe Biden if they can change a voting rule, but Oregon, California, and Virginia do not. I'm not sure if this is how this portion of the bill would work, but it sure does read this way. If you go and actually look at what it says, it just says any states with a history of, who
defines that?
Exactly. So it just says states with a history of voting restrictions have to then get put on a list to be, anytime they want to change the rules, they have to get pre-qualified with the federal government. I think this is interesting because a state like Georgia, who has a ripe history of voting rights violations, judged by yesterday's standards, but in the last election, the Senate and the Senate was 6-14 Democrats, and the House of Representatives is about the same percentage. It's about half Democrats, half Republicans. So it's not like this is some, no longer is Georgia this 100% red state. You know what I mean? How would Georgia get treated if it wanted to change its voting laws? So how would if Georgia wanted to change now today, if they wanted to change a voting rule because of their past history, but they're a state that's half blue, half red right now, how would that work? Would Joe Biden or would the federal government be like,
well, Joe Biden wouldn't do anything. He can't.
No, I know, but I'm saying in this new proposed, bill, and they're putting him on a list where you have to get pre-qualified, pre-cleared to change the rules. How come would they look at what Georgia wants to do and be like, oh, well, Georgia's majority run by Democrats, so we don't have to pre-clear them anymore?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize when Georgia went through that big voting thing.
In the last election?
Yeah.
2020.
And they're all screaming, oh, they're all racist there. They were changing voting laws. Like, they're making it, their voting laws are better than New Jersey and New York. So that's the other side of the coin they're not telling you.
Right.
They have more access to voting than New Jersey and New York.
Both senators are Democrats for Georgia, and half of the Congress for Georgia are Democrats.
So let's just say, let's live in Joe Biden's little world where he gets this Voting Rights Act passed.
Sure.
Which he won't.
Right.
Manchin and Sinema will not let it go.
I'll go into more on that, but yeah.
The ayes have it. Lawsuit, Supreme Court.
Right.
Supreme Court's going to land like, why are you guys even trying to do this? This is clearly, it's not even like open for interpretation. Clearly in the U.S. Constitution.
You don't have to be a law, scholar to read those words.
Any high school senior can read the Constitution and be like, yeah, that's not right.
Right.
The states run their own.
States run their own.
The federal government doesn't. I find it funny that people can't stand in line. They need a mail-in ballot, but they can stand in line for 2 hours for a COVID test. But all right.
I completely agree. I'm like, if you haven't, so you're saying this whole entire time you haven't been to Target, you haven't been to Amazon?
Exactly.
I think that's what my
exactly. Go ahead. So,
while there have not been any proven methods of voter fraud, even by Trump-appointed judges, so no judge has come out and said there's been any sort of voting fraud happening. The attempt to expand mail-in voting seems to be a play. You're saying it is too dangerous to go vote in person, so you have not been to a Walmart or a Target? That's what I'm saying, right? Like, that's what I was going towards. It's like, okay, so, it's too dangerous to go vote.
That's the only reason they're pushing this COVID thing was so they could get through the election.
Right.
And now they have to kind of own it. And oh, wow, it gives us control over people, so now let's see what else we can do with it.
Right.
Oh, don't worry. Right before the midterms, don't worry. COVID's going to be a big deal again. Trust me.
I know. The new variant's going to come out or something.
And black people are going to be like, just wait for BLM to come out.
You're right. So on voter ID laws, I actually went to the ACLU and did I just started looking up because I was like, that kind of like that video that you showed. I was like, what is the current state of people who have IDs in this country, right? And the ACLU has a whole page on, if you go to the ACLU, their homepage is all about the voting rights and all this stuff. And you just scroll down the page and it's got all this information. So the ACLU, it says, voter ID laws deprive many Americans of the right to vote. It says millions of Americans lack ID. 11% of U.S. citizens, or more than 21 million Americans, do not have government-issued photo identification. I don't care.
If you don't have the ability or the common sense to go get an ID,
that's right.
You shouldn't be voting anyway.
That's what I'm thinking as well. And it's saying, okay, well, if we're a country that bases all of our rules and laws being passed and people being elected in off of majority, a vast majority, 89% of people in the United States over 18 have an ID. So you're going to change the fundamental structure of our country based on 11% of people that don't have voting rights. That's not, you don't care about those 11%.
If those people
you're
cared
trying
about
to do
democracy,
something.
they could have went and got an ID.
Right. So they go on to say,
stopping them.
The ACLU says obtaining ID costs money. Even if IDs are offered for free, voters must incur numerous costs, such as paying for birth certificates to apply for a government-issued ID. Okay. That's the way the world works. Yeah. That's the way it works. We can't...
Carter, it's ruining our democracy.
Someone's got to pay for the person who processes that ID or that birth certificate. Someone's got to pay for the paper that it's pushed on, that it's printed on. It's not just free. We can't just manifest these things. So, yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have to pay for it. It goes in and says... there's another section about talking about like states that have tried these things. Texas is one of the biggest, has in the last decade made the biggest push to educate its people on voting rights and how to get IDs and how to do these things. I think it said somewhere in I'll get to it. Oh, so it says Indiana spent over $10 million to produce free IDs between 2007 and 2010. And it's saying it like it's a bad thing. It's it says voter ID laws are a waste of taxpayer dollars. States incur sizable costs when implementing voter ID laws, including the cost of educating the public, training poll workers, and providing IDs to vote.
Dude, there's got to be a better way.
That's what the ACLU says. They're like, well, we can't have voter ID laws because it will cost us too much money to get everybody an ID. I don't care.
I think you should have a voter ID card, like an ID.
Or just, I don't know why when you go to school, you get an ID. You get a government issue, or when you're 18, they send you a government issue ID.
Yeah, they come.
Why is that impossible to do?
Well, most 90% of the people at 16 go and get one.
11% of the people don't have IDs. So we're talking about something that in my eyes isn't even an issue.
It's not.
Like
they're using it under the guise to change laws. They want mail-in balloting everywhere.
Yes.
Because they saw how well that worked.
Yes.
So that is all they're trying to do.
Remember this, people. Anytime one side is pushing something hard, whether it is the expansion of mail-in votings or the many Republican states trying to increase the ability to change district lines, there is a reason. That reason is called power, people. We must always remember that the powerful elite want one thing, and that is money and control. How do they get money and control? They get it by staying in power and pushing laws for Monsanto, who will kill wildlife, or P&G to keep taking chemicals out of our natural resources. They don't care. They just want to be in power so they can make the laws for the big corporations, big pharma. They don't care about voter rights. They just want to stay in power so they can keep pushing their fucking bills, insider trading all day long. You know what I mean? It pays to be in U.S. power. If you're in the Congress, if you're in the Senate, if you're in the state representatives, as we've seen, even the Federal Reserve. If you have a position like that, you don't care about the well-being of the people. Not even Ted Cruz, not even, Rand Paul might have, he's kind of a baller, but, these people in power, they don't care.
No.
They do not care about you. They don't care about mail-in voting. They don't care about coronavirus.
They're not trying to get you to vote. They just want you to vote their way.
They are getting you to try to vote, but not for yourself. You're not voting for yourself and your country. They just want you to vote for you. You know what I mean?
The framers of the Constitution had a solution for this. We've talked about this, right? A little bit.
Okay.
The Convention of States.
Yeah.
If enough states get together, they can call a convention and bypass anything the president has done and anything Congress has done.
Right.
Congress passes a bill.
If enough, so it's like 17 states. How many states?
No,
is it?
you need.
Like half?
I'm off.
Yeah.
It may be half, probably 26 states.
Go look it up real quick.
To call a convention or something like that. So if you can get 26 states,
Let's
just say whatever it is.
Up real quick.
And there's like a bunch of states that have like signed on already for a convention of the states.
Let's see if we can get. It says once 2/3, 34 of the states pass our resolution, the convention will be called.
So you need 34 states to call, and these are the states that have passed it.
Yeah.
They can make amendments to the Constitution.
They can do anything they want.
They can put term limits on things.
Yeah, sure.
So states that have passed the
convention application. So Georgia, Alaska, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Indiana, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arizona, North Dakota, Texas, Missouri, Arkansas again. Wait, did we hit it? No, that was no. Okay. Utah and Mississippi.
Wow. So you see all the red states are like.
Yeah, well, look at this map.
Yeah.
I think green is go, and then blue is probably
they're working.
Oh, no, it's right here. Blue is active legislation. Green is passed convention of the states resolution, and yellow is passed in one chamber. So there's a lot of states actively trying to. We don't know what because I doubt that, New York is going to pass it.
So what happens is, and I think I've researched this a little bit, They'll be like term limits. Somebody will make a proposition for term limits.
Yeah.
Because the U.S. Constitution doesn't give term limits. So they'll be like, each state, how do you vote? And the state legislatures.
Not even like the Senate.
Yeah, not
like the federal Senate.
Not the
for
two.
The,
no,
right.
It's down to the state legislatures
Really?
vote on things.
That's interesting.
Like, we're for term limits. We're against term limits.
Everyone should be for term limits.
And if they get 34, I think it said.
Yeah, 34.
Term limits.
They become a.
Yeah, I mean, there's a way. The framers, I'm telling you, the more I look into this, the more I delve in things.
Yeah.
Those guys who wrote this Constitution were geniuses.
It's crazy. 1776,
every little thing they thought about.
How did they know?
A lot of them
they just knew their history.
They knew their history.
Right.
That's the reason freedom of speech is number one. And number two is the right to bear arms. They understood what happened if they took guns away, because that's what happened to them back in England or their fathers.
Or not even that, because they look back at civilizations that have collapsed, and why did they collapse? They probably took a hard look. And first off, they probably already knew, because
Roman Empire,
they told each other. They actually taught history, and like, hey, it's so important. We don't know history. You know what I mean?
What is it saying? If you don't
know the history, you'll repeat it, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Convention of States could cure a lot of these problems.
Sure. So that's about the voter ID, right? So that's what they want. And in honesty, if you do see, so I had a conversation with a guy in my office, and a very left-leaning guy, and we have really good talks back and forth. And he's not very informed, but he has good points. And
see, the guy who said DeSantis was the devil.
He actually went back.
Yeah, he said
he said DeSantis. He called him like a crackpot. He said I said something about the monoclonal antibodies in Florida and what's going on, and they're being like.
Is this guy from Texas?
Yeah. He's lived in Texas his whole life. Yeah. And he was like, he didn't know about the monoclonal antibody thing. And I was like, oh yeah, like here's this video from Ron DeSantis talking about what's going on. And he was like, oh, well, I don't know if I'd trust anything from a crackpot like that. And I was like, why? And so I got a little heated, just because I don't like when people come to me with like ignorance and they just go straight to like insult and can't back it up. Because I was like, okay, you think he's a crackpot? Why is he a crackpot? Because I think he's one of the only people in this country right now with their head screwed on straight.
Exactly.
So why do you think he's a crackpot? Because this is a big issue. And he was like, oh, well, he did that thing.
What thing?
That's what he said. And I was like, what thing? He was like, I don't know. He came back a couple days later, and he was like, hey, man, like, I don't know. I was talking out my ass the other day. Like, you're right. Like, I looked into it, and like, he seems pretty. And I was like,
he's pretty solid.
So he's a pretty cool, he's a good guy to talk to, this guy in my office, right? He's open-minded to things, right?
That's all you need, is somebody to be open-minded.
And I love it. And I don't judge him for who he is or what he believes in, because because we were talking about this, and he doesn't know much about HR1, the voting rights, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act or whatever. And I was telling him about what's going on. And I was like, okay, well, they're trying to expand mail-in voting, and no mail-in voting has been proven to be fraudulent at this state and time by even Trump-appointed judges. Okay. That's all I'm saying. So we kind of talked back and forth, and we both did come to this conclusion that was like, even the Republicans who, or not the Republicans, but the majority of red states, Republican-led states that are trying to implement these new voting law changes, a lot of them are like about, you can't pass out water. You can't, or they're trying to limit the amount of polling positions, the places to actually go vote. And for me, I'm like, well, that goes to the same thing. That's fuckery. Why can't I pass water out voting?
Well, I'm sure it's just like, there's a reason why. Just like when you worked in construction, we can't do this because of that. Some guys like, here's a Joe Biden
water bottle with Joe Biden on it.
So it's not like you just can't get water. Right. There's a reason probably behind it. I don't know what that is, but
I don't know. I don't think from a right or left perspective on this. And lately I've been really trying to distance myself from looking at anything from right and left. I'm looking at it from power, people without power. Why are we changing the right? Anyone who's actively trying to change is like, you're changing it not for the good of the country. Betterment. You're doing it so you stay in power.
Yeah.
I feel like our friends in Vegas, we were talking about it, and they're in tech, and I was like, I understand blockchain and Bitcoin really well. Why can't your ID be backed on a blockchain, a verifiable number, right? And that way you could vote online. There's no way to break that code. That's the purpose of Bitcoin.
Can you imagine grandma trying to do that?
But she can go vote in person.
If she was, yeah.
She can go vote in person, and those people could vote online. And they said, well, that would mean too many people could vote and everything would be Democratic every time. Democrats would win every time. If you could have an app and you could securely vote on your phone, they were like, Democrats would win every time because people would just get on the lazy Democrats who don't go vote would.
You need to put some effort into your voting. I agree. I don't know. I'm not that I agree. I'm not that we agree.
Right.
You need to go vote. If you
can just do it from your phone.
The dude that like, hey man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Sure,
right.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
I hear Joe Biden's better than
Hey, if you're up to me, you have to take a test to vote.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that could be a way to say we can securely have a fair election if you do it through that digital platform on the blockchain. Everything's verifiable. There's a ledger. The cool thing about that is if everybody votes on the blockchain, we know exactly how many people voted and we know who voted because you can't replicate that vote.
I don't understand.
And there's no way to fuck that. I'm telling you, Bitcoin cannot be fucked. People sometimes talk about Bitcoin's not secure. The trading platforms that Bitcoin's on is not secure, but Bitcoin as a technology is impenetrable. It literally cannot be broken. And I don't see why we're not using it for this. You get an ID when you graduate high school. You can get an ID, but you automatically get a node on the blockchain. We know exactly who you are. You have a number. I don't know. I see the side that they're talking about. If everybody can vote and you just get on your phone, oh, Joe Biden, blah, blah, or Trump, you know what I mean?
The people aren't informed. Like your boy at your work. Like
that's the biggest thing is the being uninformed.
Being uninformed. And, why do the Democrats go so hard with the young people? Because they're easily confused and manipulated. And they don't go after the 30 and 40-year-olds.
It's easier to say there's systemic racism.
Yes.
Everything's racist.
Yes.
We're going to give you money.
Vote for me and I'll change
the elite, you need your fair share, which I think is true. But at the same time is like, they're basically playing vote for me and I'll get you that fair share, which never comes, by the way.
Happens.
They always run off of let's get your fair share and it never comes.
No. They've never done a damn thing for black people either.
And then they can keep making their bills for Monsanto and Big Pharma.
The
and
community
Pfizer
organizers probably got paid, but nobody else.
Yeah.
Look at BLM. How many billions of dollars have they made? They haven't done shit.
I don't know about billions, but I know they've made
shit. You don't think they've made $1 billion?
You want to see?
Come on. How much money? Fucking the NFL's giving them money. Everybody in the world's giving them money. Yeah, those socialists just bought our third house.
Okay, BLM shares detailed look finances. You want to see it?
Sure.
It says, all right, well, let's just look here. BLM raised $90 million last year. But where's that money going? I don't know, but $90 million, it's not $1 billion, but still a lot. Still a lot of money. Well, okay, we're only a week into this year, so
that's what they can show.
That's what they can prove.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those checks from what's his name don't really show as
you can raise $90 million pretty quick.
Can you help me raise $90 million?
I mean,
hey fans, can you help me raise $90 million?
I would imagine the NFL would give them $90 million. Or
really?
NBA
sure.
Come on.
Sure. Oh man, it's crazy stuff. So what is the issue here? The issue here is the filibuster. So let's talk about the filibuster for a moment because so the voting rights is the issue and they want to change the filibuster so that they can pass a law. So what is the filibuster? A filibuster is the use of procedural action in attempt to delay or prevent legislative vote. A filibuster is when a senator runs a speech until 3/5, 60 out of 100 senators vote to end the filibuster. This is called culture. Okay. The Senate needs 51 out of 100 votes to pass a law. But if someone proposes a filibuster, they essentially are stopping the bill from happening, right? If they vote for cloture, then the whole session is ended and they have to reopen a session and try to push it again.
I don't know how all that works. I just know the filibuster's been in place I can remember back 20 years ago them talking about it. Everybody threatens to end the filibuster. These motherfuckers are going to do it.
So
well, they're going to try to do it.
that's how it works. So essentially, you only need 51 votes to get a law passed. But if someone proposes a filibuster, you don't even have to do the filibuster. You just have to propose that you're going to do a filibuster, and then you need the 60 votes to get cloture and end the filibuster, and it ends the session. But with the filibuster, if you do run a filibuster, you have to get up there and talk as long as you can. You can't.
I understand why
There's like crazy rules. Like you can only have water or milk. You can't go to the bathroom. You can't do anything.
So they all get like catheters.
They get catheters and stuff, but you can tag other people in. So I can say the representative from Texas, Kelly, is going to take my spot for now, and then you.
I've seen a dude get up there and just read a book.
So what happens is let's say I start a filibuster. I have to start talking, and if I need to go take a crap or something, I say, now the representative from Texas, Kelly Craft, has a question for me. And you have to ask a question while I go to the bathroom, and they just it's like a mini filibuster. So you're asking like, what if I wanted to, go to the store, and how would this law affect it? And it's not ridiculous. It's important because it ensures that when there's a small majority,
ridiculous.
They can't take over power.
I've seen Ted Cruz do this once. Ridiculous. Democrats have done it several times. Ridiculous. I'm going to sit there and talk for 24 fucking hours.
Notice, this is not the first time that a party wanted to change the filibuster. Republicans tried to change the filibuster rules in 2005.
They were probably wrong for it.
And they were probably wrong for it because this was put in by the framers. I'm of the mindset of if you're trying to change anything that these guys put in
you don't
place,
have the votes and you're trying to push something through.
Exactly. So after doing some research into the filibuster, there's a website with the timeline and the history of the filibuster. Senator Byrd. You know Senator Byrd? You ever heard of him?
He's the KKK guy, isn't he?
Yes. So he used the filibuster.
It's Joe Biden's buddy. Joe Biden spoke at his funeral.
Really?
He was the grand cyclops of the KKK.
So he used the filibuster like a mofo against the civil rights bills. He filibustered for 24 hours against the civil rights bill, and then the second he was done, they reopened another session and passed the bill anyways. He's racist. He's a racist.
He was
dude.
the grand cyclops of the KKK.
I watched an interview of him after doing this. I was like, whoa, this Byrd dude's fucking crazy. So I went and did an interview, and they had some from C-SPAN interviewing him like later in his life, and they were like, so
we don't have enough grand cyclops, by the way. But go ahead.
I think we need less grand cyclops.
That was a joke. I mean, if you listen to the other on this,
if you know anything about generational gap, you'd get that.
Yeah.
So he's crazy, and they were doing C-SPAN did an interview with him later in his life, and they asked him a question about the civil rights bill, and he said that he changed his mind on the civil rights bill, and they asked him why, and he said, well, one day I just realized that black people have grandkids, and I have grandkids, and I love my grandkids, so I assume that black people love their grandkids, and that's why I changed my mind. And I was like, huh? What?
You didn't realize that up to that point?
So the filibuster, unfortunately, the filibuster has been used in many scenarios in our past that aren't the best, like this Byrd guy. Senator McConnell is the new reigning king of the filibuster.
I do not like that dude.
He is seen as the most disruptive filibuster user in history. He clocked in 382 filibusters under Obama's first term. Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Now you might be like,
No,
hey, this is a good thing because you know what I mean. Maybe the stuff that Obama, but
what is maybe? See, that's
there's no nuance to this conversation, right?
Because what if Obama's trying to push some crazy
like
shit?
some voting rights,
shit?
Right.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with that.
It's a nuanced thing. Don't change the rules because you're not winning.
Just don't change the rules because you're not winning.
They're mad that they have control of the House and the Senate,
and they can't get
anything done
because their shit is so progressively crazy.
It's crazy. Now, here's doing the timeline of the filibuster. So I found out about Byrd, which was crazy. He used the filibuster a bunch, and other people have used the filibuster. This was just kind of like top uses.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell used it that much, 382 times in Obama's first term. Senator Manchin, Okay.
Joe.
Student and admirer of Senator Byrd.
He's from West Virginia.
Senator Byrd was the senator from West Virginia.
A lot of those. There's a lot of the. Joe Biden spoke at his funeral.
No.
I'm not saying. People liked.
No. I'm not saying. I'm not saying that Joe Manchin is, in any way. I'm just saying interesting.
Yeah.
That all this stuff is coming around to Joe Manchin right now because Joe Manchin has tried to change the filibuster 2 times in the past decade. He has gone out of his way. He cited that the Senate's inability to move efficiently now is one of the only Democrat. He cited that the Senate's ability to move inefficiently is the reason why he tried to change the filibuster 2 times in the last 2 decades. Now he is one of the only Democratic senators openly disagreeing with the proposed change to the filibuster. So it's crazy because, again, it goes back to you're only doing this to benefit yourself because for the last 2 decades, twice has he tried to change the filibuster, and now he's on his grandstand being like, well, we can't do this because of democracy and the right. And it's just like,
why doesn't he just becoming a Republican?
No one has any sort of honor. No one, it's all selfish. It's all to gain power. And I think the people, like we were saying, are starting to realize it and need to realize it more. Like,
you saw Josh Hawley, right?
I saw Josh Hawley, and he just, wait, what did he?
So Chuck Schumer a couple years ago
I saw that.
gave a fiery and
in 2005
a speech about how changing the filibuster is anti-American and blah, blah, blah. And Chuck Hawley,
Banana Republic.
Yeah, Chuck Hawley gave the word for
Chuck
word.
Hawley, yeah.
Chuck Hawley.
Yeah, his name is Chuck Hawley.
No, it's not. It's
not Josh Hawley.
Josh Hawley.
There was another guy. It wasn't Josh Hawley, was it?
It was Josh Hawley's the Missouri from Senator.
Okay.
Missouri from Senator. Senator from Missouri. Gave the exact speech, word for word, even did the hand motions. It was great.
Yeah, so I saw that. I'm telling you, when Republicans are in power, the Democrats are trying to change it. When the Democrats are in power, the Republicans are changing it. Which is actually funny in this situation. I don't know.
Third party.
I don't know my history too well about all this, but is this the first time that the Democrats have been in power and they're the ones trying to change the filibuster rule?
No. No, they've all done it. We need a third party.
We need no
like
parties.
a referee.
We need no parties.
Oh, yeah.
I think no parties would be the best way to go because then you would have to vote on your ideology. And there shouldn't be this press the Democrats and vote all Democrat.
Yeah.
We're fucked in so many ways. We need a revolution 2.0.
We're the only civilized country in the world, I believe. I may be wrong. That does not require an ID to vote.
Really? Yeah. Even like Africa?
You need an ID to vote in Mexico.
You need an ID to vote in Iran.
Actually, they dip their fingers in purple ink to show that they voted already.
Oh, really?
At least that's what they did.
Where, in Mexico?
No, in Iraq.
I don't think. Oh, in Iraq. Yeah. Not Iran. They don't vote in Iran.
Remember when all the women were allowed to vote and they walk around with their fingers purple?
Nope. Oh. That must have been before my time.
Probably. Interesting.
This is a very complex topic, Kelly, and I'm not sure if I did it justice, but I know that I've gone I know that I could have gone 2+ layers deep into every single thing we talked about today. Everything. Byrd, Manchin, McConnell, Joe Biden, what is the filibuster, the history on it, what are the actual specifics of these voting rights from the the red states that are proposing, and what is, the HR one. It's too big. It's too big. There's too much stuff. You can't wrap your head around it. The average person,
too much shit's going on.
The average person can't wrap their head around it, and there's like people in power who have agendas that know that no one knows anything about this stuff. And so they're just like, all right, let's do it. Here we go. This is it. This is the way we stay in power. So
what do you do?
What do you do? I don't know. So that was my rant for the week.
I liked it.
Cool. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.